Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about all the books that I read for the month of September, which was my birth month. I am officially 38 years old. What? I can't even believe it. It's just so surreal to me. Like, I'm almost a 40-year-old. I think and act like a 15-year-old. Trust me when I tell you this, like, I'm not exaggerating. I know some people are like, no, I truly act and think like a 15-year-old. I don't know what's going on in life, but here we are. Today we got the extra large wings in charge with the red lip. My mom hates when I do my my winged eyeliner, and it's been a while since I've done it, but she hates when I do the wing eyeliner, and she hates when I put red lipstick on. So I'm feeling rebellious today, and here we are. So Mom, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but sometimes you just gotta do what you like to do and how you feel your best. So let's just get into all the books that I read for the month of September. So I usually don't like to give stats, because normally when I see somebody else giving stats, I just forward it, because whatever, I don't care about the stats. I just want to see the books that you read. But just for the sake of this video, because it was my birthday month and because I tried something a little different, like I really wanted to challenge myself this month, and I wanted to read at least 100 to 150 pages a day, whether it was listening to my audiobook or physically reading. And so I thought it was pretty cool, the amount that I read for the month, and I wanted to give you those stats. So for the month, I read 4,174 pages, which is actually 1,400 pages more than I read in August. And so I just saw, like, I just wanted to see how much more I can read if I read 100 to 150 pages a day. Did I really read 100 to 150 pages a day? No. Like here on the 1st, I read 69 pages. On the 9th, I read 53 pages. But there were days, like on the 16th, where I read 256 pages. There was another day where I read 361 pages. There was another day where I read 170 pages. I should tell you how many books I read, maybe. I really don't care about this part, but you know. I read a total of 10 books, which is not so bad. I remember when at some point my average was 6 to 7 books, but recently I've been averaging 10 books, which is amazing because that means that there's been progress in how much I read. Of course, my dog wants to lay right in front of me and knock all my books on top of me. Again, in chronological order, that's just how I like to do it. So starting with the book that I started the month off with, and that is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I joined in on Books and Lala on Lala's readathon. She did the whole month where we read a book a week. This was the first book because it's the first book. And I've had this sitting on my shelves, this one and the second book sitting on my shelves for months and months and months. Everything about this book was just calling me. The fact that it's her favorite book, the cover, it just sounded so amazing. And guys, it was incredible. I can't believe that I waited this long to read this series or this book in particular. I fell in love with all the characters. Blue is just incredible. Jane. The boys in itself, I love them. I love the storyline. I love how atmospheric it is. And her aunts and her family members and her mother, I just love the whole storyline to it. In this book, we follow Blue and her family members and friends. There's like 200 and something people living in this one home, and they're all like clairvoyants, and they have this tradition that once a year, I forgot the name of the specific time of year, they go to this cemetery and they wait there, and she comes across this spirit or this person. And it's funny because she's never able to see the dead like her mother. She always goes with her mother, and her mother can see and talk to the dead, or not really the dead, but spirits of people that are soon to die. And for the first time ever, she feels one of them and she's able to talk to one of them. And this kid just happens to be Gansey, and he's one of the Raven Boys. Their adventure starts from there, and their connection just go from there. Eventually they end up meeting, and it's just a whole adventure of wonderfulness. I love the friendship dynamic in this, and just the relationship between these 5 individuals. There's twists and turns, but it is just, I think I already said this, but I want to emphasize on the fact that it's just so atmospheric. I think this would be perfect to read during the fall season. I'm gonna stop talking about it because I could sit here and just gush about this book all day long. I ended up giving this book 5 stars. It was just amazing. Guys, I am making my way through the Dark Tower season. Season? What? That's a new one, the Dark Tower season. Oh my gosh. I am making my way through the Dark Tower series, and this is book 3, The Wastelands. As you guys know, I've been trying to read this for a while now. I wanted to join in on a read along, and after the first book, I sort of dwindled. And like I've said a million times, they're all finished with the series, and I am just probably by, let's just say I'm by book 3 right now, which I'm not. I'm a little bit further ahead. But for the video, book 3, I've been listening to this on audio because it is the way that I have been enjoying it. I think that if I would have been physically reading this book, I would have given up on it a long time ago. But Frank Muller, which is the narrator for the audiobooks, just does an incredible job with the voices and stuff. And I remember that Frank Muller was the narrator for The Mist, and I hated that short story or that novella, and mostly I hated his narration of it. But he does such a phenomenal job in this because he has, I was saying with The Mist, is that he has sort of this western speaking to him, or he narrates very westerny, which just matches perfectly with this. The way he does the voices of all the characters is amazing. I can't say much about this because there are a few spoilers that I don't want to ruin for people, but basically it's him and his crew, his other crew of gunslingers. It's just them going through the wastelands and going trying to make their way to the Dark Tower. Again, there's not much to say about this. I ended up giving this book 5 stars. Are you guys surprised? 5 stars. I started this series hating it. Like, the gunslinger to me was so boring. But I will say that I want to go back to the gunslinger and read it because because I didn't like that book so much, I just think that part of that book is almost like erased from my memory. But there's so many things that come up in these books from book 1 that I'm like, wait, did that really happen? Oh my gosh, if that really happened, what an interesting book. But because I guess I wasn't in the right frame of mind, or I didn't know what to expect from the series, and I went into it thinking this is a Western, and I guess I closed myself off. Half of the storyline I can't remember, but I feel like if I reread it, I would understand the books better, and I would like the first book much better. So that was an interesting thing to notice as I make my way along this. I'm actually happy and excited to continue my journey to the Dark Towers. I don't know what that was about, but let's just roll with it. The third book that I read, and it was sort of a disappointment for me, was The Ruins. This supposedly has a movie. I haven't watched the movie. I wanted to watch the movie after reading this because I'm hoping that the movie will sort of, I don't know, make my experience better. I don't know, but I really did not like this. I was really bored through the whole thing. This is these 2 couples, these 2 college friends. They go on this trip to Mexico. They're having a great old time. They end up meeting a group of friends that are Greek, and then they end up meeting like different people, and one of these people that they meet, they find out how his brother ended up going on this expedition, on this archaeological expedition. Is that even a word? I think it is. But he hasn't heard from his brother, and he's like freaking out. The brother supposedly left him a map where he can go ahead and find him if anything happens, but he hasn't heard from his brother. He's about to leave this Mexico, and he still, you know, he wants to get his brother and go ahead and leave back home. So these friends are like, well, we'll go with you. Let's go find your brother. It'll be an adventure. So then one of the other group of friends, they run into the one guy from this other group that they became friends with. Am I making sense? Sorry if I'm not, but this guy, his friends ended up going to do something, and I think he was hungover and didn't go, but he decides to join in on this group of people that are gonna go find this guy's brother. And they just go off on this journey. They have this map, they go on this bus, and from this bus they have to catch like this little taxi truck thing. And when they give him this map, he almost doesn't want to take them, but he ends up taking them, and stuff just starts going from there. I went into this blind as well, and I didn't expect it to be what it was about. I expected this to be a little bit gorier. I mean, it is gory. It is a very gory book. There are scenes where are just like disgusting, but I just didn't connect with the story in that way where I found those gory parts disturbing, if that makes sense. I guess I didn't care for the storyline, and when I saw where the story was going, it was something that it was almost like a letdown to me. So all the bad things that happened to these kids almost didn't register with me, because I'm like, okay, whatever. Half of these characters, I didn't care if they died, if they stayed alive. I did like the ending a little bit, but it was almost like you saw it coming. But either way, I ended up giving this 2 stars. I know a lot of people do love this book, and I mean, love this book. But just for me, it just wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't what I expected, so I felt a little bit let down by it. My explanations are just horrible. I don't know. I don't even know why I do this. I really don't. But whatever. Next book up is The Dream Thieves, which is book 2 to the Raven Cycle. I feel the same way about this book as I did about book 1. Here, of course, the story develops even more, but still with the same cast of characters, still the same atmospheric feel. I gave this book 5 stars. I'm not going to talk much about it because it is the second book, and they are on this adventure to find this Welsh king that supposedly is dead or waiting to be revived, and whoever revives this king gets like a wish or something. And so these boys are on this quest, and Blue just happened to be part of this puzzle, the last missing piece, and they're just on this ongoing adventure. So this just takes place in that same world, in that same timeline, just trying to figure out where this Welsh king is. So 5 stars. Just incredible. I love it so much. There are characters like Ronan, for example. He's one of the characters. He's one of the boys, Ronan Lynch. While I did in the first book enjoy all the characters, I think Ronan was my least favorite. But going into the Dream Thieves, going into the Dream Thieves, I think I start liking Ronan a little more than I did in book 1. So that's a different outtake for this book, but loved it so much. I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the video, but my friend Tali and I, we are both Virgos, and her birthday was actually on the 20th and mine was on the 8th. So we decided to have like this big like buddy reading extravaganza for the month of September. We always, from what it seems like, we always do at least 1 buddy read a month. I mean, there's been months where we haven't buddy read, but we try to do like, we're always buddy reading. For September, we thought we would buddy read a bunch of books together, and so The Ruins was one of them. And then this next book I'm going to talk about, it was part of this buddy read extravaganza, so I will let you guys know what other books we buddy read together. But it was so cool. I think out of the 4 or maybe 5 books that we decided to buddy read, I think we ended up reading 3 of them, which was pretty awesome. Thank you so much, Tali, for buddy reading these books with me. It's always so much fun. So one of the books that we buddy read besides The Ruins was The Toll. This was actually one of the books in our, I believe it was the August Nightworms subscription service. I was so excited about this book. This takes place with a couple going on their honeymoon, and they decide to go to the Okefenokee swamp to have like this cabin experience, and the husband is all about it, and the wife is almost like doing it for her husband, but she's not like the outdoorsy cabin kind of person. And they happen to come across this bridge that only comes up at certain times, and only if you're going from east to west you cross 6 bridges, but from west to east you might find a 7th one. and apparently they come across this bridge and his wife disappears. He is on this quest to find her. He ends up making friends with some people from this, I mean, this town is so small. I think we encounter like 6 characters in all, and I think there's like, I don't know, maybe that many people in this town. I mean, it's really, really small and tiny, and everything is almost like abandoned. It's like a dying town. And he's coming across mysteries and things like that, and he's trying to solve the disappearance of his wife. I was so excited for this book. As I said, the synopsis was just wonderful, but I was kind of disappointed by it. I feel like this book was just all over the place. Some of the mysteries or some of the events that took place just never got answered. I wasn't satisfied with it. There are just times where you're just like, what? Like, okay, it was boring at times. I feel so bad saying that. Like, I hate giving bad reviews to books because, I don't know, I just feel like I said before, I can barely write a sentence. I can only imagine what a person goes through, you know, to write a book. In theory, I liked what this book was supposed to be about, but it just left me unsatisfied. It left unanswered questions. Well, I ended up giving this 2 stars. I am interested in reading more from her because I just think it was just this book. This is supposed to be gothic horror, and I just didn't get the gothic vibes from it. There were little instances and little parts that were gothic. I mean, like, I think there was this one scene that was very gothic, but I just feel like that scene was just pointless. We never got any answers from that scene or any descriptions. I wanted more from this. There was a house of dolls. I wanted more from that storyline than the actual storyline of the book, which is weird. But yeah, I do want to read more of her work because I know that a lot of people like her, Sherry Priest. Just this book wasn't for me. I ended up giving it 2 stars. I think I already said that. Blech. Next book up is Blue Lily Lily Blue. This is the 3rd book in the Raven Cycle series. Again, loved it so much. And it's funny because I actually had to buy this book because I didn't have it. I only had the first 2 books. And when I ended up picking it up from Half Price Books, because I actually had to order it, I just sat in the car like with my book and I'm like, blue lily lily blue, and I just start singing the title, and it just so happens that in the book they sing this, and I'm just like, wait, did me and the book just spiritually connect? It was so funny, and even my daughter was like, you predicted that. I don't know if it's just that it's inviting and the author knew that and so she incorporated. I don't know what it was, but it was just so like creepy and weird. Again, same storyline, same set of characters. I think you fall in love with the characters a little bit more in this book. While their friendship becomes stronger, I feel like it becomes stronger because they go through some kinds of issues. They go through a lot of friendship problems, and I think that through that they become closer together. There's disappearances in this one, there's mysteries in this one. I mean, there's mysteries in all of them, but this one I feel like it's a little bit mysterier. There's a little bit more mystery. This one actually broke my heart a little bit. 5 stars. Next in my buddy reading extravaganza with Tali, we read The Institute by Stephen King. This is the first Stephen King that releases, and I read right at the same month that it releases, and I felt like just such a fan, such a Stephen King fan. I have never been able to do that with Stephen King books. I know that when Elevation came out, it took me a while to go buy it, and as soon as I bought it and I started hearing the reviews about it, I sort of like just the next day returned it without reading it because it was very political. So I really didn't read that one. But when I found out about this one, I think I've had this one pre-ordered since February. I was so excited about it. Just the cover of it was just amazing. And the storyline here, we follow Luke. And Luke has been kidnapped in the middle of the night. When he wakes up, it's like he's waking up in his room because everything is exactly the same, except there's a window missing, and he notices that there's the window missing and he can't understand that. But when he goes outside, he's basically in an institute, and in this institute they do horrible things to these kids. These kids actually have telekinesis or telepathy, and they're just running experiments on them, and it's just horrible what these kids go through. In true King fashion, he writes kids and friendships with kids just wonderfully. I know that a lot of people say that this book is very political, or that there are a lot of political things. I didn't find that to be the case. Granted, there are some political aspects. I don't like politics in my book, whether I agree with what they're saying or not. I just don't want to read about it. I want to read fiction to be in a fictional world. You know, I don't want to read in the book what's going on in the world at the same time, if that makes sense. I'm here for a good time or a sad time or a bad time, but not in the sense of politics. And while we do run into some politics here, to me, first of all, it wasn't a lot, and second of all, with the storyline that it's an institute where they're running experiments on kids and stuff, you almost expect it to be political because conspiracy theories, basically. This has a lot of conspiracy theories behind it. And so it makes it okay. There are a couple of Trump banters on here, or lashes, which is fine. But it's not too much. In my opinion, it's not too much. I feel like the story really overtakes those. Like, you can almost like skim through it and be like, okay, even though you agree with them and you're like, yeah, it almost like you can brush it off and just really focus on the plot of the story. I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. I think it was 4.75. There are some harsh scenes to read in this, which pertain to kids and just being experimented on, and you get really mad at these handlers that are supposed to be taking care of these kids, but they're treated very, very badly, and just the symptoms that they go through. Overall, I really did enjoy this one. Then I ended up reading Slash by Hunter Shea. This is actually an arc that I got through Nightworms. We actually read this in a group, and we turned in a little review for the Nightworms blog. Whenever that does go up, I'll leave the link down below. So this has to do with a final girl and some events that happen at this hotel. She does like urbex. I think it's called urbex. Or you can Google it, and it's like a whole community of people that go to like abandoned places and like look at stuff, whether it's creepy or not. Usually it's creepy because it's abandoned old places and like stories behind it, maybe hauntings and things like that. It's all very kind of different, but she loves to do this. She has a group of friends. They just go exploring these abandoned places, and she likes to go and film the videos and talk to the videos and all of that. Well, they come upon this resort and they end up going there, but there is this killer on the loose there, and basically all her friends end up dead and she's the only one that stays alive. Well, 5 years after the event, I guess she just can't cope with it and she ends up committing suicide. Her boyfriend finds her. He decides that he wants revenge. He wants to go to this hotel, and she left something behind in the hotel and he needs to find it, and so he goes to this hotel, but a bunch of his friends go with him and the events almost happen again. So it was really good. I did like the storyline. To me, it really didn't feel like a slasher 80s kind of book, but I did enjoy it. I went into it with different expectations, I guess. I just found some of the things to be a little bit like too far-fetched. It just seemed too unbelievable at times, which I usually don't mind in fiction because it is fiction. But I will say that the abandoned hotel scenes were very creepy and very well done. I also feel like the dialogue was a little too rehearsed, or a little bit too perfect, or sometimes just a little bit too like lines. Other than that, it was an exhilarating wild ride of a read. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. Sometimes I just don't even know what to say because I have it in my mind, but I don't know what to say. Next, I read the Cormorant. Stephen Gregory, the Cormorant. that big bird. I read this with a couple of Nightworms reviewers, some of my buddies over on Instagram that we all review for Nightworms, and this was an interesting read. I enjoyed it. This is another very dark, atmospheric read. I haven't given this a rating yet. I don't know where I sit with it, but as far as the atmosphere goes, this is on point, and the bird is just insane. There was a scene here that has to deal with a cat that I was just like, no, like why? Like we didn't have to go there, but overall it was a good book. But like I said, I just don't know what I want to give it as a rating yet. Everybody else gave it in between 4 and 5 stars, so if that helps you in any which way, but I really did enjoy it. And it is a really tiny book, so it's a book that you read in one sitting. We have reached the last book that I read for the month. My eyes are already getting watery. I have actually done a whole vlog for this book as my experience of reading it for this time. Is a very beloved book. I finished it exactly 5 days ago. I finished it on the last day of September, and I am still getting teary-eyed. I have not closed that vlog because I have had to wait this long to be able to talk about it, and obviously I can't even talk about it. I'm being so dramatic, and I'm making you guys wait so much to show you the book, but I adored this book so much. I want to start by saying I gave it 100 stars, but since that is not possible, I gave it 5 stars, but like the highest of the 5 stars. This has become one of my favorite books of all time. And I would say is my favorite Stephen King of all time. And that is it. Like I said, I have a whole vlog of this. I haven't finished the vlog. The vlog sucks, to be completely honest with you, because we're in the middle of moving states and there's been so many things happening that I haven't really been able to dedicate what I wanted to dedicate for this book and the vlog. So it's gonna suck. I'm still gonna put it up. But like I said, I haven't closed it yet because I needed a few days to get my thoughts together, and I still feel like I can't get my thoughts together. I don't know what I was expecting of this book. I was super intimidated by it, not by the size. This is an 1160 page book. I wasn't intimidated by the size. I love big books. I love large, big, detailed stories. But I did not know what to expect from this, other than, yes, we have a clown, an evil clown, blah, blah, blah. I have seen chapter 1 of the movie. I haven't seen chapter 2 yet because I wanted to read the book before I wanted to read the book, rewatch the first movie, and then watch chapter 2. It says here, one of the greatest storytellers of our time, and I can't agree with that more. This book was like sitting down and having Stephen King read to you directly or tell you directly a story, and just the words hug you in a way like a warm blanket. I know that sounds dramatic, but I promise you that's how it is. This book is phenomenal. It's a story about friendship. It's a story about coming together when you're the oddball out, when you're the loser, like they call themselves the Losers Club. And it is a horror story, but I feel like when you finish this book, the horror aspect of it is a quarter of the story. I mean, Pennywise is a very dominant part of the book. And at that, I feel like we don't see him as much as I would expect to in a book this large. It turns weird, like when these adults come across this, whatever it is, again, it just turns into this weird, like, what am I reading kind of book. But it almost like falls in the back burner. Like it's almost at the back burner of the story because you just fall in love with this group of friends. I cried so much. I cried for 2 days after I read this that my husband was like, you were crying with it? And I feel like that is such a common thing to think, like you're crying with it, because you don't expect that from this book. I fell in love with the characters. I feel so connected to this, and I just want everything it. I need to stop talking about this because this part alone is gonna be like 15 minutes of the video. So those are all the books that I read for the month of September. It was a great reading month. I mean, I had a bunch of 5-star books. I read a bunch of Stephen King books. I mean, I read 3 Stephen King books, but that's 3 out of 10. Let me know down below what you read for the month of September. What was your favorite book of the month? And if you have read any of these books, I don't know why I'm pointing over there when there are no books over there that I read. If you have read any of these books, let me know down below what you thought of it, if you agree with me, if you don't, if I made sense, if I didn't. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!